Over a 10-year period beginning in the mid-1960s, Sweden embarked on what would become arguably the most ambitious residential building program the world had ever seen. A post-war economic boom was in full swing, and armies of workers were moving from the countryside to take factory jobs in the big cities. Housing this burgeoning new middle class had become a serious bottleneck. So in 1965, the Million Program was born, aimed at constructing 1 million new apartments over a 10-year period. Erik Stenberg, an architect and teacher at KTH, is a developer of the Sustainable Homes Lab at the Center for a Sustainable Built Environment. Since 1999, he's also been engaged in the practice, research, and politics of restructuring the housing of the Million Program era.
I'm researching in the field called post-war modernist housing. And specifically in Sweden, 1/4 of the built housing stock was built during a 10-year period from 1965 to 1974, which we call the Million Program era. It's the highest production per capita in the world at that time.
Some 6,200 apartments were built in the western Stockholm suburb of Tensta, once a military parade ground, between 1966 and 1972. And it's now home to nearly 20,000 people, a majority with roots in other countries within the last generation or two. Long a resident of the area himself, Stenberg has focused much of his research on Tensta.
This is a typical Swedish Million Program era neighborhood. This is how it was built. However, if you look closely, you can see that they're prefabricated houses. You can see the joints from the exterior. You can see the repetitive elements, and you can also see the yards. They've been remade recently.
What's your role within the Center for the Sustainable Built Environment?
Well, we have 3 areas of research that we do, and one is within the housing, and specifically the Million Program heading that research, trying to find broader collaborations, find specific knowledge that we need to research about, and initiate projects.
What kind of research needs to be done on a huge stock of existing housing?
They need to be renovated. So if you look at just piping and ventilation and roofing materials in a usual building stock, after 40 years you need to replace or refurbish. And so that's one driving force. Another driving force is sustainability. We have the energy usage. These were built pre-OPEC oil crisis 1973, so most of these units need some type of energy renovation to decrease the energy usage. And usually in insulation, but also HVAC and water temperature requirements. So and the third force is social issues. We do have in the large Million Program areas of multifamily housing, we have social issues of segregation and integration and many low-income families, which of course leads to a number of other problems.
This is because this housing was built with the objective of getting people into housing, but without sort of a modern concept of building residential areas that allowed for interaction and that thought about pedestrian traffic and where you put the shops. Is that what you want to change?
Yes and no. They were highly modern, and in comparison to many other countries in Western Europe, for example, we never built social housing in Sweden. So we had a very high ambition in terms of the built environment. So there were a number of studies and there were a number of national initiatives to build for the rising middle class, and that's the welfare state. However, the society has changed very quickly. So now we have a huge global population living in small parts of Sweden. And so we don't primarily need to change everything, but we need to know more about the intentions, the original ideas, in order to fine-tune the environments and to make sure that they continue existing and working for another 50, 100 years.
Life in Tensta is pretty good actually. I've been living here since I was like 2 years old. I came here from Rinkeby like 20 minutes from here. And now I go to school here in Stockholm, so it's pretty good. I can't complain. Like here in Tensta, you meet a lot of people. Like there's a lot of people moving around, doing their stuff. For example, if I had to go to the center here in Tensta, I would see like so many people just walk around.
The existing planning here is based on kind of generous measurements, so the buildings are fairly well spaced out. There's lots of light, even if you live in the lowest apartment. The yards are meant for kids and walking, and there's a complete traffic separation between cars and people. And many of those qualities are underestimated today when the tendencies are to make or recreate the old city centers with stores in the bottom and 4 floors of housing on top. And there are even forces wanting to rebuild the Million Program era areas to an old stone town, which is turning back the clock and removing a lot of the qualities that exist today. I think the fact that a lot of people appreciate that the children can walk to school, from school, without intersecting car traffic is a good quality.
What can you change in an existing block of apartment buildings? So you're pretty much stuck with the infrastructure that's there, aren't you?
Yes, but if you take a specific area that I've become interested in, is just the apartment sizes. They were built for the Swedish post-war nuclear family with 2.7 kids. And so most of the apartments are 2-bedroom apartments. However, today we have lots of single-family households, and we have lots of families with more than 2 kids, maybe up to 8 or 9 kids in some of these areas. And there are no apartments to house these people. But since the buildings were built well and they were built highly systematized, industrialized, they are easy to change. It's like almost a prefabricated system in some cases, where you can move interior walls to adapt to a current living condition.
6 years ago, Abdi Rahman, his wife, and 10 children moved into a large 6-bedroom, 166-square-meter flat in Tensta, created by opening up walls between 2 smaller units.
Vi bestämde sig att flytta hit på grund av lägenheten. Vi hittade en lägenhet i Hässelby. Och det var ju så trångt. Och vi försökte att hitta lägenhet. Vi har kollat många olika ställen i lägenheter. Men sista vi kommit hit. Och så den är perfekt lägenhet. Och ska vi komma hit? Och längden på bara för dagar.
Ja, det är 14 meter.
14 meter. Och då är basen till oss. Och nu vi kommer en stor familj. Och faktiskt. Det är 10 barn och 2 föräldrar.
The key thing in this apartment is this load-bearing column. Without the load-bearing column, we wouldn't be able to change the rooms. We wouldn't be able to reconfigure from a 2 to a 6-bedroom apartment by putting them together. So this is a prefabricated system with a load-bearing column, and then you have 4 pieces of concrete laying on top of the column and on the exterior walls. And that means that all of the interior walls are free moving. So we moved all the kitchen cabinets, the cupboards, just moved them around like a puzzle and reconfigured to fit today's society and today's families and today's needs, not the needs from the 1960s and 70s.
In a coming episode of this video blog series for the KTH Center for the Sustainable Built Environment, Erik Stenberg talks about his research into the changing demographics and socioeconomic conditions of the new generation of residents in Tensta and the other Million Program areas of Sweden. I'm Kevin Billinghurst. Thanks for watching.